What's the most ridiculous dating preference you've heard of?
Wingardium Leviosa.
A buddy of mine said he only wanted to date Korean girls. One of our mutual friends at college tried to set him up with her roommate, who was an exchange student from Korea. The next day she asked him if they were gonna see each other again and he said no, she didn't fit his standards. Turns out the only Korean women he wanted were K-pop idols.
Wingardium Leviosa.
Met a woman who confessed her hobby, restoring old cars, repulsed most men because not a feminine activity. Au contraire, I thought it was attractive as hell, and we had lengthy conversations where I did some researches, asked questions, listened her talk about her passion. She ended our exchanges when I casually told her I wasn't proficient with tools and tinkering, outside computers, her justification being a manly man knows how to use tools.
Wingardium Leviosa.
Dude wanted a Japanese woman who spoke Spanish and cooked Mexican food.
Wingardium Leviosa.
I was chatting with this gorgeous Mexican girl who had moved to the States. I'm Asian American, and she told me she had a thing for the Chinese Mexican guys. I was like, where the hell are you going to find one of those? But it turns out there was quite a population in the town where she was from.
Wingardium Leviosa.
A kid I worked with said that he wanted to date someone who was physically fit, worked out at the same gym, had a certain style hair, drove, lived by herself, and there was a whole host of other preferences. We did the maths, and there were roughly 5 people in town who met that list.
Wingardium Leviosa.
Girl I knew only dated guys with trucks, due to masculinity. Straight up said she couldn't take a guy who drove a woman's car seriously to do a man's role in her life. Guy she wound up with was shorter than average, small and scrawny, worked an office job, and was pretty much the opposite of the big burly masculine type, but he drove a truck. I found that so odd. I flip cars, so what I drive can change on a daily basis. I can't imagine that being a deal breaker for someone.
Wingardium Leviosa.
It's normal. I have a roommate who is destined to be single forever. His preferences and is not open to any changes. Must be shorter than he is. Blonde, blue or green eyes. Virgin, and preferably never been kissed. Slim but not too muscular. Enjoys doing household duties. Full-time employment with benefits and retirement savings. No drinking alcohol, caffeine or sugary sodas. Must have sense of humor and laugh at his jokes. Must want 3 children. Must be financially set and planning for the future. He is a 46-year-old, suspected virgin 5 feet 6 inches tall, balding, pudgy, evening desk clerk at 2-star hotel, smokes shittons of weed and drinks a 12-pack of light beer daily. Has no hobbies but getting drunk and staring at things. Literally dresses and looks like a person you would not introduce your kids to, and no way would you ever leave them with him. It's sad that he doesn't see how sad he is and thinks.
Wingardium Leviosa.
My friend claims to only want to date Japanese girls, despite not living in Japan or any community with a Japanese population. Furthermore, he has never even met a Japanese girl. His opinion is based solely on watching anime.
Wingardium Leviosa.
Sounds like you got a weeb on your hands.
Wingardium Leviosa.
Takes a long drag on a stick of Pocky. Fucking weebs, man.
Wingardium Leviosa.
Polishes katana dispassionately. It's like they always tell me in Kyoto. Omae wa mo shindaru. Nanny. I don't know what that means, but since Japan is always awesome, I'm gonna assume it's something cool and profound that fits the situation.
Wingardium Leviosa.
Specific race, specific piercing, fat ass, short curly bouncy hair, freckles, must have athletic/body, no social media, no Twitch/YouTuber, no guy friends but he can have girls that are friends, I can go on and on. You must be okay with hypocritical views / double standards for him. I'm not making this shit up. Dude thinking there's some build a bitch workshop out there. Edit, thank you to the kind and generous Redditor for awarding me some poop.
Wingardium Leviosa.
I think we have all experienced this one, Lamau. I got told I'm only good for a fucking chuck and not for a long-term relationship on a date because she asked my sign and I told her Scorpio. I thought it was funny goofy like zodiac signs, so I figured she must be joking, but nope. She was serious. Told me she would let me know if she ever wanted a hookup, but we weren't gonna work out because I was a Scorpio and she couldn't do that to herself. I was so baffled and confused to even be offended, lol.
Wingardium Leviosa.
All these tradcon dudes want a woman to be a virginal and demure, saving herself for marriage. However, as soon as you start dating them, they immediately want the woman to start putting out.
Wingardium Leviosa.
Not only that, but in terms of financials those people have mixed ideas as well. Like, they want a stay-at-home trad wife to take care of the house and, eventually, children and all that. So the idea of pursuing a career, or even having a small job is out of the question because they are not supposed to do that. Yet, when is about paying during dates, or about living costs, they are all no, she should pay for her meal, and pay for her stuff, I will not be her ATM machine. So, a lot of those guys love the idea of a trad wife but can't bear the idea of being a trad husband.
Wingardium Leviosa.
He needs to be so hot that I feel physically sick with how badly I want him whenever I look at him. There's just no other way I could go out with someone. She was a junior doctor, and a friend of a friend. When I last saw her, her boyfriend was a 6'2" ex-model. Because of the facial scarring from a knife fight with a rival drug dealer. He hadn't finished school or done any other kind of work and came from a really rough background. He'd been scouted and modeling was the big break that was going to lift his family out of poverty. But then he got into a fight and it was over before he was even 22. So now he was unemployed and spending his days sitting around in their flat, that she paid for, smoking weed, that she paid for, with his mates, talking about the hip-hop demo they were going to seriously start working on any day now, which she would have to pay for. He was really
Wingardium Leviosa.
crazy attractive. But she would show up at my friend's door in floods of tears a couple of times a month over him, and they seemed to spend all the time together when they weren't actually fucking, just screaming at each other. I don't know if she actually liked him, as a person, at all. But he was really hot.
Wingardium Leviosa.
I've literally heard a woman say to me that her ex-boyfriend was too nice for her and I'd be too nice for her and that she'd need an asshole to keep her in line. She'd never date anyone who she'd be friends with. She later came out as a lesbian, and has only been with women since the past 11 years.
Wingardium Leviosa.
A woman I knew mentioned she was looking for a man who made at least $500K/year and was also an artist type and not a workaholic. I was like, I think those items are in conflict, sweet thang.
Wingardium Leviosa.
It's called a trust fund. And they're pretty rare.
Wingardium Leviosa.
Finance? Trust fund? 6 feet 5 inches. Blue eyes.
Wingardium Leviosa.
I love the breakdown of this that, through assumption that there is even distribution of these characteristics throughout the population, concludes there are probably only about 2 single men in the entire United States who meet all of these requirements. Edit, I am aware these criteria are lines from a song. I couldn't name the song, but I know it from reels mocking how strict they are, though I imagine in the song they're used a bit knowingly by the singer.
Wingardium Leviosa.
There's this one girl I repeatedly see on dating sites, she's been on there a long time, as have I. Nothing really wrong with her looks wise, but she is in her 30s and she makes it very clear she's still a virgin. She wants a guy who is also a virgin, doesn't watch porn and won't even entertain dating any guy that drinks or smokes even sometimes. And on top of that doesn't want some Mormon or otherwise religious/conservative guy, since she's not religious/conservative herself. Like, lady, what planet are you on?
Wingardium Leviosa.
Not the most ridiculous, but I got a good laugh when my friend said he wanted to set his dating profile to exclude girls with small dogs that can't breathe well.
Wingardium Leviosa.
TBH, valid. Every girl I met with a small dog that can't breathe well was superficial and obviously doesn't care about overbreeding issues.
Wingardium Leviosa.
Selectively choosing those dogs. Yeah, F that. Finding one that was dumped or left at a shelter. Respect for loving the shit out of those poor little assholes.
Wingardium Leviosa.
I grew up with a pug that my dad offered to dog sit for a coworker, and the guy never came back to pick him up. Smelly, snorty little guy was the best. Vet bills were insane, but he lived till 16 comfortably. Edit, doggo.
Wingardium Leviosa.
I knew a guy who hooked up with, but wouldn't date his female best friend, who he talked to every day and spent a bunch of time with, because she wasn't pretty enough and didn't have enough going for her, as in she's the LA type who makes money off of gigs. This man was 40 years old and had no stable job. Granted, he was good looking, but how in the hell is he going to find a woman who's attractive and has things going for her if he doesn't also have things going for him?
Wingardium Leviosa.
I dated a girl who full out admitted that she was dating me, a puck, to look progressive.
Wingardium Leviosa.
I bet she also has a pet gay friend.
Wingardium Leviosa.
As a woman who has a gay male best friend, I, and he, absolutely hate when people consider someone their gay best friend. He's one of my best friends who happens to be gay. I didn't know he was gay when we became friends. I was actually the first person he told, when we were in our 20s. I'm not friends with him because he's gay, and him being gay isn't the defining factor of who he is.
Wingardium Leviosa.
I used to be friends with someone who wouldn't date over 30 when he was like 32 to 33. He was with a woman nearly 40 purely because she let him come in her, but then set his sights on a girl at his supermarket job who was freshly 21, then another who was 17. That's just one reason I stopped talking to him.
Wingardium Leviosa.
Not dating Android users.
Wingardium Leviosa.
Many people think the green bubble debate is a joke, but it's actually illegal activity by Apple. Businesses cannot make their competition look worse by undermining their products. That's what antitrust is and why Apple is being sued by the DOJ. Apple intentionally tries to make non-iPhones look like crap to keep people from switching away from their products, and they've publicly admitted it. Android doesn't do this. It's not a joke, Apple is literally breaking the law.
Wingardium Leviosa.
I met a 49-year-old man who outright refused to date any women over the age of 30. He was single, in case you're wondering.
Wingardium Leviosa.
I briefly dated one of these guys, when I was in college. I was 22 and he was 38. I didn't want to see him anymore, and when I told him this, he told me I was too old for him. He said he was going to go to a foreign country, somewhere in Asia, and find a teenager. He actually said this. He said he was going to find a teenager and raise her to be the way he wanted. So gross.
Wingardium Leviosa.
There was a woman I worked with at a resale boutique. She was dating this guy for like 6 months. They went out every weekend. She was really pretty, he was really handsome. She asked me what me and my boyfriend talked about. She explained that her boyfriend would take her to bars or restaurants or they would hang out and watch movies, but they never really talked and she didn't know what couples were supposed to talk about. She mostly just dated him, because he was good looking and she liked how he dressed.
Wingardium Leviosa.
When I was dating I would tell women that I had a secret clearance and they didn't allow me to have social media as it was a security risk. Never had a problem with that explanation. I used to be a security contractor and actually had a clearance, so it wasn't that far-fetched. Truth is, I just didn't want the social media drama. Hard for people to twist your words or use knowledge about you against you if they have absolutely nothing to go on. Most people are generally lazy, so if you're not on the internet, you basically don't exist. It's glorious.
Wingardium Leviosa.
Once got a message out of the blue on a dating app from a woman, who I hadn't approached, liked or talked to even once, in order to reject me out of hand. I hadn't asked, because how can you be in your 30s and not own your own home? I mentioned in my profile that I was currently renting somehow, but it wasn't more than a passing comment, and she just messaged to rebuke/reject someone who hadn't even approached her. I thought it was the weirdest thing. Not even a beginning of a conversation or an honest inquiry or anything, it was an attack right out of the gate. Didn't like to tell her that the only reason I was renting was that the 2 previous houses I'd owned I had given to my exes. The woman was clearly only interested in one thing and I didn't need her getting the idea that she could be number 3.
Wingardium Leviosa.
Some girl on TikTok was talking about this guy she met who only dated women with lip filler. Because he believed that meant they had money. Smiley face, smiley face, smiley face, smiley face.
Wingardium Leviosa.
Similar to people who own boats. Doesn't mean they have money, just means they've had money. Ex-boat owner.
Wingardium Leviosa.
The 2 happiest days of your life are the day you buy a boat and the day you sell that boat. I used to sell boats and would outwardly joke with potential customers that they don't want to be the guy with the boat, they want to have a friend with the boat. Management didn't like that.
Wingardium Leviosa.
I had a friend in high school who said that the only man she ever wants is Prince William. Mind you, this was 20+ years ago when he still had hair. We did not even live in the UK. She's in her 40s now and she must have been serious about it, because she has never dated anyone else.
Wingardium Leviosa.
Way back when I was doing online dating, this girl had the most restrictions for a potential relationship I've seen. By far. Man must have a place to live, must let her move in, sleep in separate beds/rooms, no kissing or holding hands, makes me uncomfortable, hugging is very iffy, maybe after I got to know you for a few months, anything sexual is strictly off the table, won't cook, clean, or do chores, no kids, man must support me 100% financially, as I'm unable to work due to medical reasons. Like lady, you're not looking for a relationship at this point. You just want a free place to live. Edit, oh, I left out another one, absolutely no porn or masturbation, as she considers it cheating.
Wingardium Leviosa.
I had a friend/co-worker who required men she dated to be at least 6'2" inches, black, intelligent, handsome, holding a good job, chill after being told after a few dates that she had herpes, never late to a date, even 5 minutes, because that's disrespectful of her time, always pays for dates, always responds to her texts the same day, and visits her in the hospital even if she's only there overnight. They've only been on a few dates, and he has to work and has pre-existing obligations. She had a zero-tolerance policy for anyone who failed any of these requirements. In essence, they had to treat her like she was just about the most important thing in their life. For some reason she found it hard to find a man to go on more than 2 or 3 dates with.
Wingardium Leviosa.
Matched with someone on Bumble, she asked my Myers-Briggs personality type. I told her it was ENTP, and asked hers. She unmatched. Honestly not even mad, gotta respect the hustle.
Wingardium Leviosa.
These tests are not accurate, but you can have a pretty good idea about some aspects of someone's life. For example, in order to get E, you probably answered a lot of questions with things like I enjoy social environments and going out, etc., and a lot of people are just not into that. At least it makes more sense than astrological signs, which are just supernatural BS.
Wingardium Leviosa.
So he'd achieved the lofty rank of shift supervisor. He'd attended Bible college with the intent of becoming a youth pastor, but no church wanted to hire him, likely due to some pretty questionable and extreme views, even by evangelical standards, he held. So here's his list, and most of these items weren't preferences but requirements. His age or younger, half a year older was a deal breaker. His height or shorter, an inch or two on him, would be acceptable but not ideal. 9/10 physical attractiveness. Non-smoker and teetotaler, he occasionally drank tradwife aspirations, wants at least 5 kids and to be homemaker. Independently wealthy, because no way is he affording a family of 7 on a DQ/youth pastor wage. Very high sex drive, but only interested in missionary sex. Excellent cook. Same evangelicals church denomination, or at least fairly adjacent. Baptists, Pentecostals are okay. CRC/7D/Episcopal are somewhat heretical but might be persuaded to come around. Catholics and Orthodox are devil spawn. I'm sure there's a couple more I'm forgetting. I cut off contact with the guy about 7 years ago, and last I'd heard, he was still very single and had moved back in with his parents. Ex-friend of mine had the most ridiculous requirements. He could probably live 100 lifetimes without popping his cherry. I have to describe him a bit to paint a picture before going into his list. Guy was born very prematurely and had some physical deformities as a result: hunched back, uneven length legs, slightly peanut-shaped head, freakishly large hands at the end of scrawny arms. He was a bit over 5 feet tall, one of the least symmetrical faces I've encountered, slightly bulged eyes behind thick glasses. He was the youngest of, I dunno, 5 or 6 kids and must have been babied. When I first met him, he was in his early 20s, living with his sister and her husband, and she still did his laundry and cooked his meals. He didn't get his driver's license until he was around 25. The only job he'd had was at Dairy Queen, where over the course of, I dunno, 12 years or
Wingardium Leviosa.
I once made a rule that I would no longer date men who didn't have some type of window decor. Curtains, blinds, shades, etc., blankets, sheets, or flags tacked up over a window didn't count. I don't know why I consider this a sign of maturity, I just do. Maybe I was just tired of the frat boy type.
Wingardium Leviosa.
People whose legs don't work and wheelchair fetish. Went as far as using a wheelchair despite having legs that work.
Wingardium Leviosa.
Oh no, not the devotees. As a fairly cute girl in a wheelchair, paraplegic, I received so many FB messages from dudes who were into chicks in chairs. They couldn't understand why I found that disgusting, like you're only into me because of the most horrible thing that's ever happened to me. No thank you.
Hey guys, this is the Rogue YouTuber here. I recently had a big change in my life. I had a baby daughter. Here she is. If you could do me a favor and remember to hit the subscribe button and bang the bell, I'm hoping to really create a YouTube channel that really gets people excited and brings people the best, most interesting content collated from across the internet. I'm saving up to save my little girl to Carnegie Mellon Computer Science Department. So please remember to like and subscribe. See you next time.